Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages with our special guest, Antoinette Cea-Lopes. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
We're so
Thank you
Thank you
excited
so
so
you're
much.
here.
I know. I'm like the moment I crossed your thing on when I was at Instagram, I was like, I love this girl. Not
Yep.
only am I like I
I
was like, yep,
agree.
repost, repost. I'm like, we're having her on.
Yeah, thank you so
So
much.
we
Thank you.
know you, but for our audience who's listening, we have both writers and readers who join us. Do you mind just introducing yourself so they know all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Antoinette Cea-Lopes, and I I hate saying this. Well, I don't really hate saying it, but I feel like I'm an accidental book talker, like if that makes any sense. Um, I just
That's kind.
one day made a book video, and then I just kept going, and that's how it like all happened. But I've been an educator, so I was in education for quite some time, and I was an editor in the past, and um, I
So
was a
that explains
researcher.
why
Yeah.
I love your videos
Right. I was like,
because
yes.
you
There
are
we go. I
so
was like,
eloquent. Even when you're like serving someone, you are so eloquent about how you do it. I
Well,
just
thank
I could
you.
sit and listen to you for hours.
Wow, thank you so much.
yeah.
It's so
Sorry,
nice
I
to
didn't
hear.
mean to interrupt, but I was like
No, thank you. Oh, it's nice.
On that vein, though, you do discuss some heavy or potentially controversial topics or topics that other people cover with heavy emotion, right? And it can sometimes devolve, but you do seem to go about it in a way where it is factual and you are just presenting from your perspective and your opinion how you think things should proceed. And I love it. You remind me a lot of just in the manner in which you do it, where you're like, I'm going to address this and we're going to keep on going. In the way that like Bethany Frankel, who's a real housewife, I'm a real housewife.
Yeah.
Like, he is. And I'm I like, know Stacey is not, I am. But when things come up, she'll just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Blah, 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 and then just keep it moving.
And
And I
I,
love how you don't
yeah,
sit in that like negative emotion because I feel like it doesn't allow space for some of the foolery that can
Mhm.
come from some of the topics that you discuss and take on.
And you
yeah,
say accidental book talker, but I think what you're giving right now in the sense of like, I'm just stating how I feel, like you can leave it or take it. I think we're hungry for this. I think we're
Yes.
tired of being like cuddling or whatever. We're like, and so I
Or
think it's
the
honest.
straight negative. Or the
Yeah.
straight negative. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's honest, it's to the point, and I just the way you delivered, I was like, yes, yes, thank you. So I think like accidental or not, I think we're all hungry for this type of book world to change. I think it's been negative too long. And I
Mhm.
think we're ready for
I think it's negative, and I think that some people are very afraid to talk about certain things when it comes to books. And I actually think that the fear of talking about things is that's toxic. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and I think that maybe I pull my classroom like onto the screen, you know what I mean, when I'm talking to people because when I was a teacher, everything was up for grabs. Like, hey, we're going to
Mhm.
discuss things. And some of these things are going to make you uncomfortable, but in that uncomfort, you're going to grow as a person.
Yes.
And I think that when it comes to literature, especially, there's so much to explore. So when we're not having these honest conversations, even if those honest conversations make us incredibly uncomfortable, we're not allowing ourselves to grow in our literary journey. Not everything's going to make you comfortable, and that's okay.
Mhm.
It's
And I
not
think
supposed to.
people are afraid to be perceived as stupid if they don't quite know as much as the next person. And that's
Yeah.
not the way they should look at it. You should look at it as you're learning. You
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
learning from this. So speak what you want to say, and other people might come in and say different, but you're learning in that situation. And it's not
absolutely.
a negative thing, whereas like in the past couple years has been perceived as negative if somebody has a different opinion or know something more than you do. And I think that the way that you serve up what you say on like this beautiful platter is what we how we all need to talk to each other right now.
I
Yeah.
love how
Oh,
you keep
thank you.
calling it serving also. And just
It
for the sake of
is.
our audience who may have never seen you on social media, first of all, if you could give your handle and we'll also put it in the comments below. But second of all, like just some of the topics that you've taken on in terms of, reading goals as like a very minimal emotional impact, but then even heavier things into the toxicity within book talk. Um, did you ever think like, do you ever get any comments and you're just like how do you respond to those comments? Because I know I just block at this point in my
Yeah,
life, but you have a grace to you. So like,
Mhm.
Tell us
And
all
I
the
say
So
serve because she makes it very palatable. She
Yeah.
makes
ah.
it palatable in her
thank you.
delivery.
Thank you.
Well, I'm
I
taking
feel
you
like I'm just
down.
getting
I'm making it
complimented this
palatable.
entire so many compliments. Um, it really depends on the comments because there are times when, I'll read a negative comment and I take it as an opportunity to expand a conversation because that's what I like doing. I like talking to people. But sometimes, especially with certain fandoms, like the Saturday Mass fandom could sometimes be an incredibly
Yeah.
toxic place, depending
Mhm.
on like which books, what characters you're talking about.
Mhm.
Um, and there have been times I had to block people just because it becomes trolling and like spamming, you know what I mean? And that's not conducive to good conversation like
It's
whatsoever. And
bad faith. It's knowing what's in bad faith and what's in good faith.
absolutely. Like, but when I have someone who disagrees with me about like something I really love talking about is the death of the author, like the concept
Mhm.
of how we interpret literature, in light of an author, right? And I do have people who disagree with me about the death of the author, but when they genuinely ask a question, you're able to kind of decipher when something's asked in good faith versus when they're just trying to be combative.
Right.
And, good faith conversations, even if people disagree with me, I'm all about engaging. Like if we all had the same opinions on things, this would be an incredibly boring space. I have
Mhm.
no interest in being like everybody else or in anybody having the exact same opinions that I do. I enjoy the conversation.
And I think that's the problem is we've gotten all too comfortable and nobody wants to be uncomfortable.
No.
That in the society seems to be like nothing that makes me uncomfortable. Little Timmy can't be uncomfortable. Like he can't read that book because it makes him uncomfortable or makes me, we've got to get back to being uncomfortable because there's
Mhm.
Well,
too many things
yeah.
in the world that like, sorry, that's not going to be comfortable for you, but that's the truth. So I
I
feel like, go ahead, Willow.
I feel like I've been a little bit selfish on my platforms recently because I'll make a post and somebody could have a good faith answer and I'm not entertaining it. Like my tolerance level for explaining and
Yeah.
educating, I don't have the time for it anymore and I'm not interested in engaging with it. For example, I think it was like last week I did a TikTok and then posted it elsewhere. I like creating on TikTok and then just moving it because I
That's what
like
I
the
do too.
yeah, the ease of the platform. It's so easy to
Yeah.
use. And it was about defending dark romance and its legitimacy. And somebody had commented on Instagram that was like, well, it depends on what exactly you're defending. If he's really misogynistic, absolutely not. That shouldn't be here. And all I could think is from a psychological standpoint, when we're using books to cope, some things that trigger you are good for somebody else. Some
Mhm.
things that are good for you are triggers to somebody else. You can't just shut it down and say, well, absolutely not. If it's this, then no, it can't exist. Yes, it can. It's just not for you. I don't
Yeah.
have the character space in a singular comment, nor do I have the grace to explain to somebody at this point in time. I just get so like, I think maybe I've been on social media too long, and also there's so much bad in the world right now that I'm like, if you're gonna come to me with something, I'm just gonna delete it.
Yeah.
Like
Well, just
I
send it
just,
to the
Yeah.
teacher. You can tell
yeah,
your
yeah.
teacher, you're
So,
like, come to
so
me. I'll
Yeah.
I'll go for this. Yeah.
Well, I dark romance right now is having a lot of problems on social media. And like I know personally my algorithm is it's not just like book reviews and book talk stuff, but it's also a lot of literary culture. So I see a lot of the things that people are complaining about, a lot of the things that people are pondering. And right now there is people are really hating on dark romance.
yeah,
And you know, I'm a dark romance reader. It's not like I wouldn't say it's my favorite genre because I read everything. So it's
yeah,
something that I read a decent amount of. And, you know, there are uncomfortable things in those books,
yeah,
but literature serves as a safe space to explore things that you wouldn't want to explore in real life.
Right.
So, when you're reading something where, she's kidnapped and the guy's wearing a mask and maybe he's a little misogynistic, but like it's kind of hot. It's
yeah,
not something that you would necessarily want to experience in real life, but
Oof.
you're able to
yeah.
explore these fantasies
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
on page,
Not
and I think
only,
that that's
yeah.
healthy. That's fine,
It's
you
very,
know?
and romance in particular is the only genre where you know you're going to get a happily ever after. So the other things that we're exploring with cognitive dissonance, we're able to work through consciously or subconsciously, knowing we're going to get through this, which we don't get in real life. So that's when it comes to people commenting and putting their hard lines on other people. I just have like at this point in time, I feel like I've just said it so many times. I feel like we all have Google. We all have the ability to research it. So kudos to you for taking the time to
Yeah.
engage.
Mhm.
Because
Thank you.
I think a lot of people just don't have the capacity right now. That's even before
Yeah.
you even got on. I was talking about my therapy session today with my therapist and about not having the tolerance in other aspects of real life right now to put up with things from other people and to educate other people.
Yeah.
Because then, like, we all have a phone. You can also Siri,
Yep.
what is blank?
Yeah.
Like, educate yourself. So it does take a lot of energy and a lot of time to do that. So I hope in some capacity, are you monetizing? Because you should be
Yeah.
getting real
Yeah.
life money for the work that you are doing.
So as of recently, which is like very exciting, again, like I kind of accidentally entered this space and I was a stay-at-home mom and I was a teacher for years and all of that. So when I started to be able to monetize, it was really rewarding because it was like I'm doing all this and I'm
Mhm.
doing it for fun, but now I kind of have something to look forward to. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
it's exciting. Um, but just quickly going back to the conversation about dark romance and just all literature in general, I think that people have to start realizing that fiction does not equal endorsement. And I
Exactly.
Yes.
have discussed this previously online. People read something like I was having a conversation with someone about Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov,
Mhm.
and they were like, "Well, he must like little girls," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"That's not the point of that book." Like,
No.
right. And and that's a classic, right?
Yeah.
And that's just something people have been very upset with that book for decades now. But especially like you read dark romance, and I say to myself, like, do you really think that Rena Kent is saying that a healthy relationship should start off like the relationship in God of Malice? No, I
Mhm.
don't think that she's saying
No.
Yeah,
that,
and do
right?
you
Like that's
just to bring this up, how going back, do you think that like the relationship because of the internet, social media, we're starting to lose this reality book fantasy line that people are looking like, because the parasocial relationships online.
Mhm.
We have so much reality TV show that's actually scripted, but people take it real. Like these books, I feel like people are starting to lose that. Like this is a book, people. Like it's not
yes.
real. This.
I Yeah, I do think that people struggle with parasocial relationships when it comes to characters and also authors. Like
Yeah,
the way
Mhm.
that some
that we
people
Mhm.
go
know. Yeah.
crazy about authors. And I'm like, the like speaking to the books, these books are fake. And like again, literature, especially things like fantasy, romantasy, sci-fi, these are all speculative fiction genres. So we're supposed to think about them like on higher levels, but at the same time, they're not real. You know what I mean? Like, your
Mhm.
book boyfriend is not a real guy. Like,
And
so
to your point, Stacey, also the community has grown substantially. And I think
Mhm.
when you widen an audience, you're going to get some people who aren't familiar with the community and who are going to push back and are going to have to figure things out. We didn't go through this 5 years
Oh,
ago.
but they read
5 years
books.
ago was
Come
so
on.
small. No, but the people we were communicating with were the people in our Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Right.
right.
That was
Yeah.
predominantly like we had very small communities. Now,
Yeah.
if you're posting something, it's going to the web, right? We go
Yeah.
viral. I have something that goes viral on TikTok that reaches the good audience, goes viral on YouTube, and it's very angry old white Christian men telling me I'm going to hell, right? Like it's just a matter of what your audience is. And also, again, some people are acting in good faith where they are genuinely concerned and they're like, what the hell? Like our kids shouldn't be reading this. Why are you reading this? This could be bad. And maybe they just need therapy because what we're responding to when buttons are pushed aren't what pushed the button, it's what installed that button. And a lot of people have PTSD from COVID. A lot of people need therapy and they don't go to it. So we're reaching this audience of chaos. And I think how we handle the chaos is really important. Currently, my tolerance level is minimal, so I'm deleting. But you're doing the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that their consumers are responsible for what they consume.
Not
Like
according to
you need to
them,
do.
Colleen. No.
I know, I'm asking too much.
Yeah. If you don't like it, put it down, walk away. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wanted to go back to like what you said, one of your favorite topics was the death of the author, you were saying? And then
Yeah.
also, what brought me into it was the whole fairy smut thing, because as a fantasy author, like
Oh,
that one
about
triggered me. I mean, and it like that one hit me very
for
deeply because
for our
I,
audience, when you say this fairy smut thing, you're referring to, I think it was an article that said is fairy smut dumbing down literature or something like that, right? That's what you're referring to, Stacey?
So, yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of her first,
Yeah.
yeah. So either topic you want to bring up, I'd love to discuss both, like, because they're both like really good for like that. I feel like more audience needs to hear about.
So, what would you prefer to talk about first? I have
I
a lot
love
of opinions on both. So,
I
Okay.
love the fairy smut. Is fairy smut dumbing down? I think it was like
Yeah.
our society. I forget exactly
Yeah.
what the title of the article was, but
right.
yes. So you go ahead and give your opinion before I word vomit up a whole bunch of
Oh
emotion.
yeah. Like this is my
No.
life.
So it was an article by the Telegraph, and it was whether or not fairy smut, and I just want to highlight that they spelled the word fairy wrong. Okay,
Yes,
Did
they
they
did.
really? Oh my
Tinkerbell,
God.
Yes.
you
I
know,
love this.
whether or not fairy smut is dumbing down literature.
Mhm.
And there's so many problems with even even asking that sort of question. I mean, when we talk about fairy smut, the idea that like fairies, like fairy smut is this new thing. There's an argument to be made that William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream is fairy
100%.
smut.
It is.
It's
It is
it's a very
100%.
like it's a raunchy play
It
about
is.
fairies in the woods and
Very
like, the
raunchy.
youths, like, right? And so when people say like, this is a new thing, I'm like, I'm sorry, tell me in a different way you never studied English literature. And like that's fine, right? But
Yeah.
then don't comment on things you don't understand
Hmm.
because it's unintelligent to argue otherwise. Um, but additionally, I just can't get over this idea that the things that women enjoy are constantly being attacked. And it's not even that it's just attacking them because like we see this every fall with the pumpkin spice lattes, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
here come the basic bitches with their
Yes.
lattes and their UGG
Hmm.
boots, right? I hope I'm allowed to curse.
You're
Yes. Oh
absolutely
yeah.
fine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we see that like every fall, and it's just a matter of saying like those things are just silly. But now when we say like is fairy smut dumbing down literature, there's actually a negative consequence attached to that question because it's not just, oh, is fairy smut silly? It's that it's dumbing down the
It's
entirety
causing
of literature.
harm.
Hmm.
It's
It's causing
suggesting that it's
harm, right?
causing harm, which opens the door
Exactly.
for some kind of censorship. Correct.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it opens the door for exactly right, like censorship and this idea that it's dangerous somehow, like it's doing something that's bad to the masses. Um and
Once again,
you
it's
know,
just insecure men. That's
Hmm.
that
I
are
do think
out now.
I have to be honest though, I think it's a lot of insecure men, but how many times I've seen women
Different.
Well,
put
it's
down the genre too.
yeah.
And I'm like, why are you so hell-bent on making yourself look stupid?
The pig,
Like,
the
Ignorance.
ones who like to
They're
boot on
just
their neck.
ignorant.
Well, and okay, I have a problem. I do hate the word smut because I feel like it's bitch, where
We've
women
talked about
can
that
take
yeah,
it
before.
on. Yeah, we can take it on, but I don't feel it's changed. It's helped us in any way in the mess. And then there's
I agree.
I
like
love
I
it,
feel
but
that I know,
I also love the word
I
bitch.
don't because I
So
work really hard at my books that like you can take all the sex out and there's a
it's
solid
still a story.
political intrigue, all this stuff. Like I have, and so I hate that it's just being dumbed down to being like, oh, that's fluff. Like where Patrick Griffiths can be like, oh my God, that's top tier. Game of Thrones can
Yeah.
have all the sex they want. That's top tier, but yours
Because
is
there's more violence,
real
right?
good.
Yeah, they never
Yeah.
bat an eye towards violence for the sake
Oh, mine
of
still has
having
violence.
violence, but they will for
Yeah.
sex. No, but I
Yours
mean, they
has a
won't
lot
bat
of
an eye.
violence.
They won't bat an eye about violence or a book about violence, but if there's sex, then they have something to say, even though
Especially
sex is more,
women dominated sex. Like
yeah,
we're getting what we enjoy. We
mhm,
finally are having,
Right.
good sex.
even though sex is
Yeah,
more,
good
yeah,
sex for women, like, and that's
exactly.
Hmm.
that's the thing, like, we read about, and I have no like, and I made that video about George R. R. Martin. I have no problem with him. I love Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
but we read about rape on page, and it's like, oh well, this is high literature, right? Like
Hmm.
highbrow, and I hate the terms highbrow versus lowbrow.
Yeah.
But then we read about literature that involves, female pleasure for the sake of female pleasure. And honestly, the other problem, and like, to Stacey's point, smut, it's not smut. Like
Mm.
anybody who's saying like, 800 pages, if there's 10 pages of sex scenes, that does not smut qualify.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Even
Like,
if it's 200 pages, I'm just going to say it's still not just smut and there's still character
Hmm.
development and there's still relevancy there. And sex is
right.
morally neutral versus
And
rape being
yes.
morally negative.
And it's worth noting too that um smut and erotica are also legitimate genres of literature.
Hmm.
So when we have these
Absolutely.
conversations, people are
Yeah.
like, it's just this. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
it's just another genre of
Genre.
literature. Like,
Also,
okay,
erotica is completely different from romance. Like
Hmm.
Stacey
yes.
said, you can remove the sex scenes and there's still a story. In erotica, if you remove the sex scenes, there's not any plot going on, right? There's no character
Not much.
Yeah.
development. But I was gonna say, I wish that I had. Do you remember when Mickey Miller came on like 3 years ago? And I
Yeah.
think we discussed this book. There was a book written lowbrow, very lowbrow. It had a lot of profanity, and it was written as I believe a debut author at the time, and it was a criticism of the world, right? And it was banned, and it was poo-pooed. And I wish, for the sake of me, that I had his brain right now, so that I could tell you what book it is, because something tells me that you would know this, but I don't. But my whole point is this low brow and the criticism and getting this light shining down and wondering, is this causing harm? It means we're doing something. It means
Yeah.
progress is happening when we push against these walls and we receive this pushback. And I believe and I have hope. And I'm the positive person over here, positive Polly. Stacy's going to be, as you can tell, we're a little bit of counters at times. I think it's a good sign. I think the more negative criticism we get and the more we push back and the more we continue to move forward and to grow in our audience, the better. Because the whole point of doing this is to spread love, give hope, which romance books do, and provide this escape, especially right now with everything going on in the world. So the more criticism, it just means the more audience we're receiving.
Yeah. To like Oscar Wilde's point, like, even negative criticism, it's still
Yeah.
publicity. Even bad
Exactly.
publicity is still
The only
publicity,
bad PR is no PR, right?
Right,
So,
exactly.
romance as a genre and dark romance specifically is getting a lot of negative press. Good, good.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Keep it coming. I might not have the capacity to counter anything. I might just delete and block and keep on blah 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 blah. But we have people like you who are engaging
Oh, thank
so
you.
very nicely and kindly and gracefully, where I lack the grace sometimes. I just had my therapy appointment this morning, and I was talking about how I wish I had the grace to say what I'm thinking in a way that would be received for what I mean it to be received, instead of the emotional impact and me just getting frustration out. So,
I will say I do have to sometimes sit with things before I make a video or anything. Um, sometimes I get really nasty comments or comments that aren't in good faith, and I just want to pop off. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like sometimes you
yeah.
really want to.
Mhm.
But I usually have to say to myself, you got to cool down because this isn't on brand for you. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you can't
Yes,
be
on
totally
brand.
crazy.
All of our writers who are listening, keep that in mind. Definitely keep that in
Mhm.
mind, because I have to do the same thing with, but whether it's on brand, and then I'm like, well, I'm censoring myself. Is this what I want to do to my person? Like, and a back and forth of emotion as you war with things, which is why deleting and blocking is just so much easier for me, so I don't have to think about these things. But yeah, being on brand and being this graceful person, that is fantastic. Can you tell us, you don't have to answer so you don't want to, a high high and a low low? We did not ask our last guest. We did not
Oh,
ask
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah, a high high low low. Oh my gosh. I almost everybody except for one person. I've asked that. But if you don't want to answer one of them, it's totally fine. We have had somebody who didn't want to answer the low low, and I totally.
What do you mean by high high and low low? Like moments or
A
Yeah,
moment
just
in time where you're just like, this is why I'm doing this and this feels so good, versus a low low of like just not
Why
wanting.
am I doing
walk
this?
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, no. No, I love being transparent. I, it's nice when people like comment things that are like, "Oh, I love this idea." But what really is a high high for me is when someone will like privately DM me. And it doesn't happen often, and this is why it's a high high, right? Like it's these like special moments. But when someone says like, your videos got me back into reading or
Oh,
got me to really think about literature in a different way. And like I feel like I'm learning something. And I'm like, that's why I do this. Like if I can convince one person to think about books differently or, to feel comfortable reading romance and romantasy and not being ashamed of whoever they are as a person and what they enjoy, I feel like I'm doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like this is why I'm
Mhm.
doing this. A low low has to be probably honestly when this is going to sound like crazy and I'm not going to say who, but every once in a while I'll have like a bigger creator like say something really nasty to me on like threads or something like that.
Reds. I've
And
heard
like
that's a toxic one.
It's
yeah, they've never
I
made
haven't
like
been
a
on there.
video about me or anything like that, but there's a few times when I'll interact with somebody who's huge and they think that like they're so much smarter because they have a backing, like, like a larger following.
There is,
I don't know if that necessarily qualifies, but I was
it
recently called
does.
stupid by someone who was like really like has a huge following, and I'm like, you're one to talk. It's like, but
Wow.
Yeah.
um,
So
so that's.
It all goes round, right? The pendulum is always swinging. And I think sometimes we've seen this with in the author community as well. Sometimes as people go up, they need to be humbled.
Hmm.
And they get into that mindset and they do that, and the pendulum will be swinging. So if you can compartmentalize it into
Yeah.
that is for them on their like it's not for you. I
And
think
then
that
you'll pass them on the ladder when they're going down, you're going up. Like that's how it always
exactly.
like you be
Yeah.
nice to everybody because you never know when
Yep.
somebody's going up and you're going down, or you're going down and they're going up,
Yeah.
That's just
I do think too, if like people have to resort to like, oh, you're stupid or something like that, I'm like, did you
They
not have a
don't
real
have an argument.
argument?
Yeah.
You're right.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
exactly. You can't come up with
100%.
something
Yeah.
intelligent, you know.
so now
Well,
shifting to the whole death as an author, like how was like what was that like what brought you to that topic? Like again, was it the reading like people saying like, people are getting dumber with these types of books or
So there's a few things that really push me to the death of the author, and I think it's incredibly important, especially now, like with cancel culture.
Mhm.
I don't know like what your guys' personal opinions on the whole cancel thing is, but I feel like every day I log on to social media and there's an author being canceled for
Mhm.
reasons that I can't even decipher sometimes. I'm like, what did this one indie author do
mhm.
in a threads post that like has you people with your pitchforks out?
or
Like
they
I
mentioned
can't
something in a
figure it out.
book that they must be
Yeah.
taking down
That
and
guy's
burned at the
shirt was
stake.
green. I wanted it to be red.
Right. Like there's always something ridiculous attached to it typically, right? Um and I really started talking about Death of the Author regarding Sarah J. Maas because these authors give these interviews and people are like, see, and I'm like, first of all, authors lie in interviews. She's
Mhm.
not going to tell you what the end of the series is going to be
Mhm.
because why would we read her books? Um, but
Also, authors
additionally,
don't have PR training. So when
no,
they're
Yeah.
they don't.
asked the question, we're just doing the best that we can. And we're
Yeah,
doing, but the entire interwebs gets to pick apart, and somebody who sees something as good will see it as bad, etc. Yeah.
right. And we're also as audience members, we're allowed to have different interpretations of a text than the author does. Once the author passes the text off to the publishing house, they are just as much a member of the audience as we are. So,
Mhm.
like Sarah J. Maas, when she says something like, well, Resand's perfect, I'm like, well, I have criticisms. Like, and I'm allowed to have criticisms even if she doesn't see them. We're allowed to have disagreements about a
Mhm.
character. You know what I mean? And that's really what the concept of the death of the author means. Like, you don't have to necessarily take into account the author's interpretation of their own text for your interpretation.
Mhm.
But I really do like to expand that into, you know, I forget who just said it, but when something's in a book, it's hard for, like take Pierce Brown in Red Rising, for example. He writes things. There's a lot of people who say, like, well, he must believe this about women because this is in his books. And I'm like, well, that could just be the character. Like
Mhm.
I'm
I've
pretending I
written
don't know
some,
who
yeah.
Pierce Brown is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm reading these books independently of who he is. And that's not quite what Death of the Author is, but when again, like just fiction does not mean endorsement. Just because something's in a book doesn't mean that the author is necessarily subscribing to that belief. And I try to have Death of the Author apply even to that because people are just you can't read anything nowadays without people taking it completely personally and
Yeah.
wanting to go on like kill the author,
Like
crucify
you
the
said,
author,
there's a
My thing is
need
let
for this
them.
witch hunt.
Well, my thing is let them carry on. You do your thing. Again, I'm just going to delete and block and I'm going to keep moving. So I should have a capacity with my platform, I think, to at least talk about things or acknowledge things, but sometimes I don't. So like if
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of this cancel culture because I block them all, regardless of whether it's me or somebody else. I'm like, I don't have time for this bullshit. Especially when they're like, do your own research. She's a blah 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 blah, and they don't provide anything. Block. I'm not
Mhm.
interested
Yeah.
in the spreading of negativity and the spreading of hate when there's usually, like you said, nothing behind it. I've just seen
Yeah.
it in the last 5 years over. It was like every other week was a new person, like, and they couldn't even keep up with what they were talking about, and nobody would have
Mhm.
anything substantial. And I'm like, I don't have the emotional capacity. I've got 3 kids, 12 employees. I'm constantly on deadline. I don't have time to tolerate it. And that's kind
Yeah.
of where I am with this cancel culture right now is if they really did something bad, go to jail. Go
Yeah.
like
Right.
karma will take
Or
care of
just
it,
stop
right?
Yeah.
reading them. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
just
don't
Yeah.
read it.
I
Exactly.
I
We'll
also
find
think
out if
that
there's something real to it because it's going to
Yeah.
stick.
And you
I also
speak with your
yeah.
dollars too. Like, don't
Yeah.
buy their
Oh,
books.
100%. 100%.
I also think it's very dishonest sometimes when like Book Talk and just book platforms in general, right? Like the webs, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
We're all a lot closer to one another than we were ever meant to be. You know what I mean? Like,
As a
like some of my
human
best friends,
species, we don't have the capacity for what is
right,
currently happening with social
exactly.
media. Hmm.
And, this idea that everybody knows everything that's going on is it's a falsehood. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I was just having a conversation with, it might have been my sister or my best friend. I honestly forget. We were talking about an author, and I was like, yeah, so what did you think about everything that happened with them? They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
have no.
the people who are online, like in literary culture spaces, are the ones who know about this. The average reader who's going into the bookstore, Barnes and Noble, sees
Mhm.
the, buy two, get a third for free sale, and they're like, they just read the back of no one's even looking at
Yeah.
the names of the authors, typically.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So this idea that like everybody knows this about this author, I'm like, no, they don't.
Mhm.
No, that's not the
You
case.
even really know this about the author?
Yeah, that's
Or
just
is it
Right.
like
something you
again the
heard?
parasocial, like they
Yeah.
think like they're all experts, and you're like, you don't actually know that person,
Yeah.
Literally,
Right.
literally. And there's a lot of assumptions when people are discussing authors. And I hate it when someone presents an assumption as a fact and then it
Mhm.
spreads and then it exacerbates and then it becomes something that it never was.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think the cancel culture, you do your thing. If this is the way you're coping with life and this is what you need in your life, you go ahead and do it. As far as
And
the author, I hope if it's something that's true, that they're able to grow
well,
and learn from it. And sometimes you don't know that something's wrong with you until you step in shit, right?
yeah,
And
Mhm.
but,
sometimes you have to have somebody be like, "Hey, did you know?" for you to learn from something, right? Because we were all in these little spheres, at least millennials were. I mean, I was 9 when Google was invented, right? So I grew up for the first 9 years of my life with a lot of very toxic, hateful mentality, misogynistic, racist, even some things where in my 30s, I'd be reminded of an event and I would be like, holy shit, that wasn't okay.
Mhm.
And sometimes those subconscious things sit with you until you
Yeah.
realize, until you're reminded, until it's brought out. So I can hope that everybody does better, grows better, and all of that. I just don't have the capacity to deal with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not saying just for like, I'm saying like that if you're an author and you wrote something and they take it as something and they're like blacklisted, like there's a lot of harm that can happen to a career too. It's not just blocking and moving on. I'm saying is like the readers can take something and like you said, a witch hunt. And I've seen authors that are really damaged over something that really wasn't even true, you know.
Mhm.
Well,
Um,
that's my biggest problem with the AI accusations right now.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and I am very much against generative AI in the creative spaces, but I feel like it was recently Carrie Lake. A lot of people were saying,
Mhm.
like, oh, Anathema was clearly AI. I'm like, what about it? Is me like, there's nothing in a text that will make you know that something's AI unless a
Mhm.
prompt is left in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just been seeing a lot of these witch hunts, and
Well,
I don't know, it
it's
makes me very uncomfortable. I'd be very nervous if I was an
Elevated
author.
writing does not mean AI. It's mean the person
especially
is educated and knows how to write. And I've
that
seen
one
that a
that's
lot recently is that,
yeah,
oh, there's no one that could actually write this way. I write that way
yeah.
Yeah.
on the
And taking a
daily.
machine, an AI machine, to find AI, isn't that like an oxymoron in
Yeah.
itself
Yeah,
when
that's
they're copying from us anyway?
100%.
Like, the M dashes and stuff. I'm like, we've been doing that since the beginning
Yeah.
of time. Now you're looking at M dashes as AI. And I'm like, that's how I write. I love them. I'm Gen X, baby. We use our
Yeah.
M dashes, you know.
Do you think it's the way that education has changed, like how kids are learning, like reading and writing right now, that has changed?
God, TPT man is that to me is the crush of
Well, it's a lot that they
the
don't
brain.
teach anymore. They
Yeah.
like my kids, I taught them punctuation because they didn't learn that in school. So I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if a lot of that, I mean, they learned period and exclamation point, but not like the M dashes, the ellipses, any of that. I taught them the proper way to use them.
I do think
So
that there's problems like with the way that we're teaching kids right now. I mean, even, like they don't, I'm trying to, how do I explain this? But, they don't really know how to write. They're not like
no.
taking writing courses, like the art of writing, the art of
Hmm.
arguing, right? Like
Yep.
rhetoric. That's a thing.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And like kids are
Critical
not really learning
thinking.
this
They
anymore.
don't even know how to cite a source anymore.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, no. I worked in research, and it's um when you tell somebody that they have to cite something, they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, where did you find this information from? Like, you can't just
Mhm.
say things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just totally, it's like lost on, especially when they're in college and like you're trying
Yeah.
to explain to them, like, MLA, Chicago style, and they're like, huh? This isn't Chicago. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to do with this. Like,
Yeah.
Even with the critical thinking and again, the trusting, like this entire conversation takes me back to a moment where there's a Gen Xer on my team who made a comment about Amazon doing something. And I said, "Oh my God, where did you see that?" And she's like, here, it's right here. I can't believe this. And she had already made posts about it and stuff. It was like some random person with no evidence. And she was like, right here. And I'm like, who is this? I don't know. Well, why did they say this? It's just because they're doing it. And I'm like, this isn't real. This
yeah,
like you're like so emotionally invested in things that just aren't real because there is no, like you said, citing sources, asking for evidence, any kind of critical thinking about things. I don't know. My oldest is 12. I love my school district currently. I'm now afraid after this conversation. I'm like, my body is not ready for what might be coming for my children. Um, Although that's just been the case since I've given birth 5 years or 6 years ago to my youngest. There's a lot going on in social media, and there's a lot of
yeah,
response to it. But a lot of what we're talking about, I'm not even seeing. I think because I
okay,
block, I do think it's might be loud voices, but small audience that is creating these
okay,
conversations, that is creating these waves, that is being disruptive, probably for the sake of follows, likes, staying on trend, and that
Only.
controversy receives
Yeah.
more response than non. But I think like we could probably count on just two hands the number of people who start these conversations trying to cancel people with things that
yeah.
are, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but it's like house fire. Like, and then you'll
Yeah.
see people that
it
have
depends on
no
if you
idea.
give it attention, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I've
yeah,
been
they're
canceled
seeing
how
that
many
it's bringing
times?
the first, it's like a pyramid, like
Yeah.
it's dropping down, and oh, this person got attention to this. Let me talk about it. Let me talk about it. Let me talk about it.
Or I have a
Before
friend
you
of a
know it,
friend that went through it, so I really know. And you're like,
yeah,
no, you just that's total
you don't know.
hearsay. Yeah.
That's like third hand
Yeah.
information.
No, and rage bait is very popular. It gets
And it
Hmm.
views. It gets like,
Works, and that makes me
it is.
sad that
and
Mhm.
we are.
especially on platforms like TikTok where you get paid based on views, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
So if you're able to say something outrageous, even if you only get 10 likes on it, but you had 100,000 views, you're making money on it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think people
And
just
I can tell you from the
outrageous.
legal perspective, lawyers will tell you not to sue for defamation or not to engage or not to do anything along with houses and PR. They don't want you to do anything in response. And I think that these creators know it,
No.
right? That
Yeah.
they can
Oh
go ahead
wow.
and
Okay.
say whatever and nothing's actually going to happen to them. Because writing a cease and desist, it's the Susan how do you say her name? The Streisner effect. When her
Streisand?
house, Susan,
Streisand?
what's her name?
Who?
Susan Stride.
Stridner, isn't there a name Stridner or
Who's
something?
it? The effect. Her house was in the
Yeah.
background of a photo, and she
Yeah.
sued to have the photos taken down, which brought the attention to, oh my God, that's her house.
Hmm.
So
Right, right.
because she
Okay.
reacted, it became bigger. So there's a lot of things people don't see. And then when the author doesn't respond, they're like, silence is complicity, or
Yeah,
said
yeah.
silence,
Right.
and it's like it's being handcuffed, right? Like
Hmm.
you
Right.
can't respond, and then they see your non-response as you're saying it's true when it's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
So there's a lot behind the scenes that readers don't know. But like you said, a lot of this engagement it's not reflective in sales. It's not.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the author allows this effect to do. Like you could just put up a barrier and it's absolutely not. I'm keeping it moving. Or I would love to have the grace to be like Bethany Frankel and acknowledge it and be like, yeah, that's true. Okay. And then, or if I didn't think of it that way. I see your point, blah, blah, and keep it moving, right? If there's substance there.
I almost think that you have to be like a certain kind of person. Like she has that same, and like they're very different, but I'm just gonna compare her to somebody like Trisha Paytas, where like
Hmm.
they just do these outrageous things and keep going because
Exactly.
it's almost like you can't cancel them. You know what I
Literally, Nick
mean?
and
Like they're
I,
just,
you could try. There's still
you can
gonna
try.
happen. Yeah, I
Like
think,
you guys are talking
yeah,
about this, she's over there. Like, you know what I
literally.
mean?
Hmm.
Like that's
And that's
the
real
yeah.
human. Like they just show so much of their life in such capacity, they're going to be flawed. There are
Yeah.
absolutely things that I would be critical of my favorite Real Housewives and be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's not great. I hope they do better. But they are really good at some things. and
Yeah.
we know who they are and those good things. And it's a very human thing. And I think when you get online, people forget that you're human. So if
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
after somebody, you might want to look at yourself first. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting place to be. And I love that you have found comfort in these spaces and you have that confidence to acknowledge things, discuss them in a way that,
Thank you.
yeah, that is admirable. It's very admirable.
I
It
but
is.
I think that what you're saying is really kind of the point, and I think that that's something that brings me into this space is that these are all people.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons like I hate these conversations about, like, oh, this person's problematic, this author's problematic, and I'm like, okay, show me somebody who's not problematic to
Right?
Mhm.
I'm
somebody
like, you're so
somewhere.
perfect.
And
Like,
when they point that person out, it's probably because they don't know them. Because
Mhm.
everybody
right.
has something that they should be working on or improving, some kind of trauma that they take out of hand when they're triggered with it, or some capacity, right?
Right. That's like even like the author R.F. Kuang and like I'm sure
Mhm.
like Poppy War,
Mhm.
she's somebody I never thought I'd ever see canceled. They had her being canceled. And I'm
Oh,
like, if
that was
if
ridiculous.
someone like
Yeah.
this, who you guys put on a pedestal, could be canceled, we're all doomed. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Well, I think they love also, like, I mean, how many celebrities do they love putting up just to almost bring down? There's almost like that high in watching somebody like, oh, we'll bring them
Oh.
down. They're too big for their
Mhm.
britches kind of thing. And you're like, we are like, our society is just sometimes like that mass mentality, and I see
Yeah.
that a lot on Book Talk is that mass mentality that they'll all start, you'll see, as it grows and grows and grows because of that mass, like
And I
money.
feel like saying, "Are you without fault?" Like, come
Yeah, right.
on. Like, this is just a person living their life for the first time. They're here for the first
Yeah.
time.
I
And
do
And
everybody has flaws, everyone has faults.
just a little
Not you don't have
asterisk.
to like everybody, not everybody has to like you.
I do
Yeah.
want to
yeah.
put just a little asterisk. Some people are racist and like bad things, and it's
Oh,
okay
yeah.
for like we're
Yeah.
not talking about
Yeah.
actual, yeah. So for
Yeah.
No.
asterisk for people listening, we're not saying
Yeah.
we can excuse racism. What is
Oh,
No,
that in
no,
that
no, no, no.
audio?
No.
You can
Again,
excuse it. No, we
No,
are not
absolutely
saying
stop
that.
buying
We are not. Yeah.
their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Like, but
discussing like minute details in a book that someone's
yes.
taking and putting it into a context it
oh
wasn't
no,
in order to make
100%.
it a
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because
yeah.
like bad, there's people who are just bad
Who-
people, right? Like,
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um,
Right? Yes.
but and I do just want to point out, and I think that this is an important aspect of this conversation, like going back to the fairy smut dumbing literature down. I don't see many men canceled. And
A
whenever
hundred
we do,
percent.
and whenever we do see a man canceled, it's because he actively physically did something. Neil Gaiman, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
assaulting women. He had to physically do something. But when a woman's canceled, it's, well, she wrote about this in a book, which makes me think she might think this. It's like
Mm-hmm.
perceived thought crime cancels a
Mhm.
woman. Meanwhile, like you actually have to have a rape allegation in order to
Mhm.
be a
And
man and be canceled.
they'll
Like,
slowly start coming back too.
Yeah.
Like you'll see
Yeah.
so
oh
many
I mean,
yeah.
even if
people
it's a
canceled and
conviction,
they'll just
come
start
back.
creeping back in and all of a
Mhm.
sudden they're back on the charts and everybody's forgotten, and you're
And
like, ugh.
there's like that, there's that guy, I forget, was he on Oprah? I forget what his name is. I should have looked this up before the interview, but
James Frey.
um
Is that who
he
you're talking about?
which
Who?
one?
The James Frey, the
Maybe.
little pieces guy. He didn't really write the
Yes.
book. Yeah.
He didn't even write his book. And I'm like, we're throwing around these AI accusations left and right, getting women canceled. People are throwing their books out in very dramatic displays. But this guy's online saying he didn't write his books, and everyone's like,
Yep.
I better read that.
I better
Mhm.
read that. Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Literally. For just for a little bit of happy, because I know time is running out and I could literally talk about this for hours.
Yeah, me too.
But just for like a little bit of what is your like this is probably a mean question to say what is your favorite book? What are your favorites books? If you could name some or an author or
Or
something that for our
recommend.
audience. Yes,
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah.
So I think my favorite book of all time is probably Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I've
I read
always
that in middle school and it's stuck
I
with
love
me.
that book.
And what a, again, genre, like people still think a man wrote it because they love it. And then they're like, I'm like, nope,
Literally.
like it's so fun to be like,
Yeah.
that was a
My
woman.
first sci-fi novel written by a woman. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
people don't
She killed
but
herself, didn't she? Or no?
no, Shelley didn't.
Oh,
No, she did.
No, no,
The
no.
Bell Jar. I'm thinking I read both
That's
books,
Sylvia
but
Plath.
she
Plath.
Yeah.
Yeah,
killed
she
herself.
Sylvia
did.
Okay,
Plath,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
it's all good.
Yeah.
I really like everything that Carrie Lake has that I've read by her. And I read Eldritch and Nocticadia was one of my favorite. Oh my gosh,
I
that's like
just
I
saw that
devoured it.
edition in Target yesterday. I went to Target
Uh-huh.
with
Oh,
my
it's so
husband.
good.
Gorgeous edition.
We all know how you feel about Red Rising.
I do. I am a huge, yeah, Red Rising's actually a god tier series for me. I love it. I love that series. I do love Sarah J. Maas. Like I actually think Crescent City might be my favorite Sarah J. Maas series, and a lot of people are like, "Wait, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like so." I love urban fantasy.
I
Yeah.
have
Um,
that stack right behind you. That stack,
Yeah.
I have it right there. I
yes,
have not started it. I am so intimidated. And I know that she's still writing. And people say start with different books. And I'm like, you know what? When I'm retired on a beach, I'll go ahead and dive
yeah,
in because I'm terrified because of
yeah,
the opinions, the very vocal opinions of where to start and
yeah,
what is going on. Like I have been intimidated.
yeah. I did it all in one go. Like Throne of
Yeah.
Oh,
Glass,
that's a lot.
Crescent
Ooh.
City, ACOTAR, and
Is that where you
it was a
started?
lot.
You started with
Yes.
Stones of Glass. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I've been enjoying The Wolf King, The Night
Oh,
Prince, Lauren
I
Palfreyman.
want to read
Oh,
that. Yeah.
it's
I like
really good.
Mhm.
It actually, I think if you were a fan of ACOTAR,
mhm.
it's in the realm. It's very similar, but
Okay.
I actually think that Lauren Palfreyman really plays with the themes
Mhm.
very, very well in her books. But yeah, I'll read anything. You know what I mean? Like favorites,
That's the way
I
I
kind of
am.
I
I'll
don't
read
have
anything.
favorites of anything. Like I
It's
can't
like
have.
hard for me, yeah.
Have you
And I
read,
find something enjoyable about everything. So, you know.
here's a off the cuff one. Have you read anything by Matt Denneman? Have you read his?
No, not yet.
Stacy's
He's
reading
My,
it
the
right now.
are
Oh, is
you?
he
You're
the
reading it?
Send
yeah,
your
he's
Carl to
the
Carl.
Yes,
Carl.
Sandra
I
Carl
can't
Carl.
people love
My
every
him.
time I hear
husband's
that
on a
name.
kick. I've never seen him so happy. There's a cat named Princess Donut, and like aliens come down
Mhm.
and the cat can talk,
Every
and they're
time
like
though I
sick
hear
sense of humor.
Carl, I'm like, Carl. The
Yeah,
Walking
that's
Dead.
such an
I cannot.
unfortunate name.
I haven't read it yet, but I do intend on reading it just because
It's
every time you
interesting.
spoken to,
It's
yeah,
it's different.
it just
Yeah.
seems to evoke happiness, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And you said you love,
My
I don't,
daughter read it and
yeah,
she loved it. She's like
yeah.
obsessed. Well,
It's
she'll be 25. So she's
different genders,
Yeah.
different ages, all seem to love it. And just, I know it's not urban fantasy, it's not, it's sci-fi, but I feel like it's something that you might enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting to. I keep hearing that the audiobook is really, really good. So
I've heard
that
that.
might be an
Yeah.
Oh, I
audiobook
might try
listen for
that too.
me.
Yeah. Perfect. I love it. Do
All
you
right.
have any last minute thoughts or suggestions or anywhere you want people to follow you?
Oh, so you can I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Antoinette Cea-Lopes Reads, and that's where I hang out typically.
Yeah. Well,
That's where Stacy and I found you. We were
I
like,
know. We
yeah,
stalked you.
it has been a pleasure chatting with you. I feel like we could do a whole nother hour just chit
yeah.
chatting. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. And anybody, if you want to leave your comments, questions in the comments, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.